Thanks for joining me today. This is Danny and welcome back to my FTB Unstable 1.8 series. Today we are going to be getting into blood magic and we have a nice, eerie, dark, rainy night to get started. The first thing we're going to want to do is to make some rudimentary snares. This is really all we need to get started with blood magic now. And we can, and they only stack to 16, which is about how many we're going to want. And now we're going to go find some mobs to throw these at. If you've ever wondered how it is in Minecraft that dead zombies and skeletons manage to animate and come after us, blood magic lore kind of has an answer to that, has a potential answer to that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the snare and we're going to throw it and until we see a debuff. So there's a 25% chance, and we're kind of getting unlucky here. Oh boy. There's a 25% chance that we're going to give a mob the soul snare debuff. There we go. So once we see those particles, we kill this guy, and then we get ourselves a demonic will that has a 3.07. We got really lucky there. So basically the lore of blood magic is that there is some kind of demon or demonic power that that has raised the bodies of the dead and is using its will to control them. Oh, there we go. I finally got the skeleton to get the soul. It's a debuff called soul snare, and that's what the white particles tell us. So when they're under the soul snare debuff, we can kill them and get demonic will. Oops! Oh, darn it! So the mobs are being controlled by demons or by demonic will, and we can access that. So I just used them all up, which is fine because we really only need a couple. We only need 2 of them. Every demonic will that we get has a will quality, which is basically the amount of will that it has. So we got 2 of them. One is 1.55 and one is 3.07. We need at least one that has at least 1, and then we just need another one that could be any amount. We kind of got lucky that our first one had 3. So now the next thing that we're going to want to do is make a Hellfire Forage. And that is this guy, and we can just make it in a crafting table. But it looks like we need a block of iron. If you've played blood magic in the previous versions, which I haven't actually, this is my first time playing blood magic. It's a mod that I've been reluctant to play for a long time, but I'm finally decided that I want to check it out. So if you've played in previous versions, you probably remember that the first thing that you wanted to do is build a blood altar. That's no longer the case. Now the first thing you want to do is do what we just did, the Rudimentary Snares, get yourself a couple of demonic wills, and then make a Hellfire Forage, which is basically a crafting mechanic, or crafting box, I guess, that we can use demonic wills to craft stuff with. And I don't know where I want to put this thing. Moved our arcane workbench over there. We'll just stick that right there. And here's our Hellfire Forge. So you right click on it, and here's basically our crafting window. So we use the demonic wills are kind of like our it's a source of energy. It's the will of the demons, and it's a source of energy. So, and there's basically 2 sources of energy in blood magic now. There's the demonic wills, and then there's the LP, the life power, which is kind of the blood of the blood magic. So one of the first things I want to do is I want to make 2 of these petty Tartaric gems, which are going to allow us to store demonic will. So we have these. Each demonic will has a certain will quality, and if we go out killing mobs, we're quickly going to fill up our inventory with these little demonic will items. So the gems allow us to store a certain amount of will within the gem. So the petty gem allows us to store 64 will altogether. So that way they won't take up our inventory. These recipes are all unordered, so it doesn't matter what order you put them in. Wait, did I do this wrong? Oh, there we go. Okay. So it takes 5 seconds, and then the item you crafted will end up here in the middle. And you can see that we now only have 0.55 left in our will. Because if we look at this recipe again, and we hover over the arrow, it tells us that it's going to drain 1 will, and that we have to have a minimum of 1 will. And we'll get into that later, but basically it works kind of like the vanilla crafting, or the vanilla enchanting, where you need a certain amount of will to craft something, but it's only going to use the amount of will that it says that it's draining. So if we look at some of the higher recipes here, like for this one, we need 60 will, but it's actually only going to use 20 will. Okay, so now if we take this will and we throw it on the ground and pick it up, we see that it didn't end up in our inventory, but the will ended up in our Petty Tartaric gem. So this gem now holds 3.07 will, and we can use that in our crafting recipes now. We can put that in here. If we hold it in our inventory, then all the wills that we get will end up going in here. And the more will that we have stored on our person, the more powerful our sentient weapons are going to be. And we'll get into those in just a second. So, for example, we're going to put this in here now. It has 3.07 will. I'm going to make another one of these Petty Tartaric gems. So we just put the stuff in there, and we wait about 5 seconds, and boom, we get another one. It's empty. This one now only has 2.07. And we're now going to use this to make a Sentience Sword, which is just that Tartaric gem with an iron sword. So we'll put that in there, get an iron sword. So we'll throw that in there, and we'll put this over here so we can use the will. And we're saving this one for another recipe. Hooray! So that used another, let's see, how much did that use? Oh, that used none. Okay, so this requires no will. So here is our Sentience Sword. It does 2 attack damage. Isn't that great? But if we activate it, so if we shift, right click, we activate it, and it now has 7 attack damage. And the attack damage is based on how much will we have. So if we go out and kill some mobs now, we no longer need to use the Rudimentary Snares, because when we use our Sentient Sword, we will get wills from the mobs that we kill. And the more we get, the stronger our sword will get. And that's the case with all the sentient stuff. But, as you can see, to make the bow, we need a minimum of 70 will. We just have to have 70 will. So that means we're going to have to upgrade to the Lesser Tartaric gem, which holds 256. And we will need 60 will for that. So we'll have to kill some mobs before we can really do anything else. And then for the Sentient Armor gem, we're going to need 240. So Blood Magic has the Sentient Armor, which, similar to the bow and the sword, give you greater protection based on how much will you have. And, however, there's no crafting recipes. So if we click on these, we don't get anything. We don't see anything. What happens is you have to make this Sentient Armor gem. And while you're holding the Sentient Armor gem, when it's activated, your armor basically gets replaced with the Sentient Armor. And then when you deactivate it, your old armor comes back. Or if you weren't wearing any armor, then you just don't have it. I just used Britannia's Mana Enchanter to give this guy Sharpness 5 and Unbreaking 3. So we have 8.25 attack damage when we're deactivated. When we're activated, we're up to 13.25, and that will only get higher. Hooray! So we'll be able to 2-hit everything right now, like all our standard mobs. And while we're waiting for nightfall, we may as well make our blood altar right away. We're going to need that eventually. We need 1 demonic will. So I saved this demonic will because it has the least amount. It only has 0.55. Because the blood altar will consume the will when you make it, but it doesn't require any will quality. So you may as well use the lowest possible will quality that you can find. I'll just stick that in there, and boom, there's our blood altar. And it looks like night is falling, so we can start using our new sword to collect some more will. So So you saw that I dropped a will. We saw it sitting on the ground, but it's not in my inventory. It just got added to my gem. My petty Tartaric gem. Tartaric meaning from Tartarus. From the depths of Tartarus. So apparently it's demons from Tartarus that are controlling the mobs. Okay, so we're up to 5.07. So I'm just going to run around killing mobs for a while with this sword. And I will check back in with you when our gem has gotten a little, or when our sword has gotten a little bit more powerful. So my Tartaric gem is now full. And by the way, if you have a gem in your inventory and it's full, any wills that you pick up will just be voided. So keep that in mind. And now if we deactivate and reactivate our sword, we should see that we're now doing 14.75 attack damage. Just based on the fact that we have more will. So let's head back to the base and do a little upgrading. Okay, so I'm going to stick this in here. I'm going to make another petty Tartaric gem only so that I can make the next tier, which is the lesser Tartaric gem, which holds 256. So we're going to make that part of this crafting recipe. It's a block of lapis, block of redstone, and a diamond. And that is going to take a lot of will. And we only have 43 left now. So now what we can do is we can hold this guy in our hand, and we can hold right click. Every time we click right click, it'll take 10% of it out, and it'll put it in whatever other storage we have. So now we have an empty petty Tartaric gem, which I'm now actually going to use in another crafting recipe for the Sentient Bow, except that we need 70 will, and we only have 42. So I'm going to have to go out and do some more mob killing, and I will meet you when I have some more will. Well, after a night of killing mobs, I have 206 will, and we are up to 15.25 attack damage. We still haven't quite met our electric sword yet at a 17.5, but I'm thinking we'll get there eventually. But I have found that it seems to be diminishing, like the returns are diminishing, because we've only gone up 1 attack point now, and we have almost twice as much will. No, more than twice as much. So, but you'll also notice that the more will you have, the more will mobs will drop. So it's almost the opposite of the XP thing, where the higher XP you are, the more XP points it takes to get to the next level. This is almost the opposite of that. The more will quality you have, or the more will you have, the more you get. So we can use our old petty Tartaric gem. Oh, except I want that over here. And diamond, block of redstone. And then we'll throw this guy over here. Wait 5 seconds. Uh-oh. Do we have enough will now? Yeah, we still have enough will. We only need 70. Okay, so there's our lesser Tartaric gem, and then our bow, and then our 2 strings. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And there's our sentient bow. So let's see. 5. Okay. Close range. Same. From far away. 4.5. Okay, that's not terrible. Actually, let's compare that to a regular bow. 4. Okay, so it's just a little bit better than a regular bow. Oh, that's... No, it isn't. It's not better at all. What's the deal with that? Huh. So I think the bonus is only when you use it on hostile mobs, because as I'm hitting the hostile mobs, I'm getting a lot more damage. However, I'm not getting the wills, so... And there isn't much documentation on this, on the sword yet. I mean, on the bow yet, so... Hopefully we'll see some of that later. Whoa, what the? Why is my head here? What the heck? That's bizarre. I don't know. Something weird happened when I drank the bottle of enchanting from, yeah, whatever. Oh, and I got a Crimson Rites book. Because I went after some Crimson cultists to get their soul, or to get their will. Alright, so I had to make another lesser Tartaric gem. I've got some obsidian, a block of iron, and I have 246. I need 240. And then we need a diamond chest plate. And that is going to make us a Sentient Armor gem, which it's going to drain 150 will, so we're losing a lot of our will. And then if we shift click, boom, we have different armor now. And it only gives us iron protection at first. Oh, but we're at protection 4 right now. Wait a minute. It's taking the protection 4 from the armor that we're wearing. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, look at that. Interesting. Okay. I didn't know that it was going to do that. I wonder if it's supposed to do that. So it's kind of multiplying the effects of the armor that we're wearing under the sentient armor. So we've gotten this far in blood magic without a blood altar. But that's about as far as we're going to get. Because right now we have the lesser Tartaric gem, which holds 256 will. We could theoretically just make another one of those if we wanted to store more will. But if we want to do crafting that requires anything more than 256 will, we're going to have to keep going and upgrading our wills. So the next will is going to be the common Tartaric gem, which requires this imbued slate, which requires a blood altar, a tier 3 blood altar nonetheless. So if we want to continue progressing, we're going to have to set up our blood altar, and I picked out this spot right here to put the blood altar. That should give us plenty of room to do all of our upgrades all the way up to tier 6, which of course we're not going to do today. We're just going to get started with the basic tier 1. Maybe we'll go to tier 2 today. But there's our blood altar, hooray! And then we're going to have to make our Sacrificial Dagger. This guy right here. So it's just glass, gold, and that. So and what this guy is going to do now, it's a good thing that we have the Ring of Odin, because we have 40 health points. Because each one, we can use 1 health point. Oh, that is not what I wanted to do. We can use 1 health point to put 100 life points in our blood altar. And since we have so many hearts, we can actually do that quite a bit before we even get anywhere near dying. So we've already got, let's see, how many hearts did I take? 10, 18, so we've already got 3,200 LP in there. And this guy can store 10,000. One of the first things we'll want to be able to do is actually see what's in our blood altar. So when we look at it now, we can't tell what's in there. We can see that little bit of red stuff there that kind of indicates that, yeah, there's some blood in there, but we don't know how much. So I'm going to do, so we need to make a division sigil, or not a division sigil, different mod, completely different, or a divination sigil. And to make the divination sigil, we're going to have to get into alchemy arrays. So and in order to get into alchemy arrays, we're going to have to play with another mechanic in the new blood magic. And that is, well, the alchemy array, which uses arcane ashes. To make our arcane ashes, we've got coal, gunpowder, bone meal, and redstone. And then we're going to need to put our lesser Tartaric gem. Even though this thing doesn't actually use any will or require any will, we do have to have something that is capable of holding. So then we have our arcane ashes. And then we're going to need to make, let's see, what do we need? We need redstone and a blank slate. So we'll get some redstone and stone. So the way you read this alchemy array is that this is the ingredient that you use to set up the array, and then this is kind of your catalyst. And then of course to make our blank slate, we just stick that in our tier 1 altar, and then we get a blank slate out of it. We stick a piece of stone. And we just wait a little while. The red particles are telling us that it's working. Now if we start seeing gray particles, that means that we've run out of LP, which obviously we've got more than enough LP in there right now. So then we take our ashes and we just right click on the ground and we get this little rune or whatever you want to call it. And actually it's not really a rune. We get this symbol. And then we take our redstone and right click on it, and that gives us the alchemy array with the reagent redstone. And then we take our blank slate and we right click on it, and then it starts doing its little thing. You know, this right here is one of the reasons I decided I wanted to do blood magic today. Just because I think that's such a cool effect. And there we have it, our division sigil. So now we can take our division sigil and we can click and we can say and see that we have no LP in our soul network. And we can click on this guy, and actually you can see that while we're holding our division sigil, I'm going to keep saying that. So when I say division sigil, I really mean divination sigil. And I will probably always say division sigil. So if you hear me saying that, now you know what I mean. Divination sigil. If we shift and look at Wayla, we can see it tells us our current tier is 1, our current capacity is 10,000, and our current essence is 1600 LP. We can also right click on it and get that information in the chat. So then if we do this some more, oh wait a minute, why did my hearts not come back? I just made myself a little regen spell with Psi. It gives me regen 3 for just a few seconds. Oh, I was standing a little bit too far away. Okay. Be careful about that. Make sure you're standing close enough to your altar, otherwise you're going to end up sacrificing yourself for nothing. Alright, so we're going to put a diamond in there. Wow, that's taking a really long time. What's going on here? Okay, it's working. You can see as I click on this that the amount of LP is going down, which means it is working. Oh, it's done. Hooray! So the Blood Orb allows us to store LP in our soul network. So that's basically LP that we can carry around with us, and we can use it for things like rituals and for certain items that we carry that require LP. But the first thing we have to do when we get it is right click on it, and that binds it to us. So we can now see current owner is Danny DJDK, and if we now click our Divination Sigil in the air, we can see that we have 200 LP, and that's just because when I right clicked on it, you can see that it took some of my life points and put them into the Blood Orb. We can also throw it in there, and it will, you can see our LP is decreasing in our blood altar, and we can keep that in there and we can walk around because it's bound to us, it's bound to our player, so no matter where we are, we have those life points that we can use. You can see they're going up even as we are moving away from the blood altar. And then our blood orbs have a similar upgrade path to our blood altars. So right now we have a tier 1 blood altar. As you can see when we right click on it, it says current tier is 1. We also have different tiers of blood orbs. If we want to make the next tier, we're going to need a tier 2 blood altar. So the tier 1 blood altar, and actually all the blood altars, store 100 or 10,000 LP. Our orb stores 5,000. So right now I've got them both maxed out. If we want this guy to be able to store more, we're going to have to upgrade it to a different tier, and we're going to have to add some runes to expand its capacity. So to upgrade, we have to make a whole bunch of these runes, these blank runes, or other types of runes, but all the different runes require blank runes. So I'm going to make a whole bunch of these blank runes right now, which require blank slates. So I'm going to be making a lot of blank slates. So remember, we made the blank slates just with stone. And so I'm going to have to sit here and wait for all these. We will automate this eventually. In fact, I think I'm going to automate it using Blood Magic's routing network or routing tools. But in the meantime, we could use just, you know, like Neotech pipes or some other kind of inventory management thing that allows us to do filtering. Haha, Beaconator. I just created a beacon, a Beaconator beacon. A full 5-level beacon using a ton of iron. Just so that I don't have to sit here and go like this. Because that was getting kind of old. And then a creeper blew up on me. I was holding... Get this, man. I was holding a half a stack of blocks of iron in my inventory because I wanted to make a ingot so that I could activate the beacon. A creeper comes up behind me, blows up. I drop a half a stack of iron. It turns into Pneumaticraft's compressed iron because of the explosion from the creeper, which I basically have no use for. so I lost a half a stack of iron. Oh well, I can do this a little bit more quickly. So I finally made a stack of these blank slates. Took a little while. A lot of sacrifices. A lot of pain. A lot of eating. So now I can make a whole bunch of these. We're going to need 8 of these. And for the second tier, we're going to need 20. So altogether, we're going to need 28 of these blank runes. I'm such an idiot. You can learn from my mistake right here. It does not consume the blood orb in the crafting recipe. You don't have to make 8 blood orbs. I could have just used this one. Oh well. So for our tier 2, we just need to knock out these 8 spots right here. And replace them with runes. And we can put this piece of dirt back there. So now if we take our Divination Sigil and right click, we will see we now have a tier 2 altar. Hooray! However, it still can only do 10,000 LP. Let's fill that up. Why not? But now what we can do is we can replace some of these blank runes with these special runes that will upgrade our altar. Now, as it is with the tier 2, you cannot replace the corners. They have to be blank runes. That's only the case with the tier 2. That's not the case with the later tiers. So that means these 4 can be replaced with... Let's go up here so that we don't get blown up while we're in our inventory. We can replace 1 or 4 of those, or between 1 and 4 of those with speed runes, which will speed up the process, of course. We can also do efficiency, which I'm assuming would make it use less blood or less LP per recipe. However, there is no recipe for this right now. So I believe that just hasn't been implemented yet. But this is the recipe for the speed rune. It requires the blank rune and a couple of blank slates and some stone and some sugar. What I want to do, we also have the sacrifice one, and then we have the self-sacrifice. This one increases the amount of LP that we produce when we do our self-sacrifice. But we will need an Apprentice Blood Orb for that, which we actually can make now because we have a tier 2 altar. So why don't we go ahead and do that right away? Because the Apprentice Blood Orb will allow us to store more LP in our network, and then it'll also allow us to craft some other stuff. So we just drop that in here, and we let it use LP. I'm going to do a little bit of this. Oh, this is done already. Yay. We need an empty hand. And then again, we right click this. So now if we do this, we can see that our that we have more than 5,000 LP in our network. It doesn't show the maximum. Right, so we are out of time, maybe a little overtime. In the next episode, we're going to upgrade our altar probably the next couple of tiers, and we're definitely going to be adding some special runes to make it more efficient and faster and just altogether cooler. And we're also going to be getting into living armor. We're actually quite close to being able to make the living armor already. And I do apologize for taking so long to get this episode out. I was on vacation last week, as you may know, and as soon as I returned Sunday, I went to bed and woke up in the middle of the night, Sunday night, feeling like I got beat up. And I had a really, really nasty cold, probably the worst cold that I've had in years. And my voice is still a little raspy, and I'm still kind of recovering, but mostly I'm back. I'm almost back 100%, so we should see some more videos in the coming weeks, and I hope you join me for that. So thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy this, please don't forget to click the like button, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.